Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Quantum Compass. This is episode number 19. My name, of course, is David Farrell, and I'm joined by the one and only
Balalvaran. Hi, everybody.
Right. So we are here together, happily and thankfully doing this show ahead of what perhaps might be one of the most important wave spells that I think I've ever been consciously aware of in this incarnation. So we're going to be looking at the blue magnetic storm running from the 24th of September to October the 6th, right, Bella?
Right. So, as you all know, we've been talking about how it is the year of the storm already, which started on the 26th of July of 2024. And now we are going to experience the wave spell of the storm within the year of the storm. So it's like one notch up. And so this is what we want to talk about on this show. It's not about being fearful. It's about stepping into your power and doing the work that needs to be done so that we can actually do our process, because this is the chance to do it.
Right, and of course, this show will be looking at not just the 13 days of the blue magnetic storm and what that could mean in the unfolding cycle, which Bella will be highlighting and presenting shortly, but also looking at the very, very powerful astrology, which is incoming during this wave spell, and also which we've just had just a few days before this, which of course was the very, very powerful eclipse. So we'll be having a look at that too and trying to put some pieces together, and also offering some hints and tips and solutions on how to navigate this. It is, of course, the quantum compass, so we're always trying to find that silver thread pathway through the chaos, and we'll be looking at chaos too, because it's in the astrology. So as Bella said, we're not in the business of wanting to scare people, rather looking at what's coming towards us with our eyes wide open and trying to find a way to navigate through it. And when we do that, we generally find that things flow a little bit easier. So where are we going to start this week's show, Bella?
Let's start with the presentation again.
All right.
So hopefully people are getting more and more familiar with the glyphs, which I've been trying to share. This is the glyph for the storm, the blue magnetic storm. Magnetic refers to tone number 1. So as you already know, because you've been following us for a while, we work with the sacred round or the soul kin together with the lunar, with 13 moons or the lunar calendar. So this is part of what we do, and they kind of engage. We have the 13 tones, the 20 glyphs, and they're always moving, continuously matching a number and a glyph, a number and a glyph. And the one we're going to do very soon is the storm, the blue storm. You can see it here as well. And here the name is Kawak. And in Maya, in the Mayan cosmology, it represents the rain, the thunder, the big change that comes with the storm. We're also working on the third moon, which started on September the 20th, and it runs up to October 17th. And it's called the electric moon because it has the energy, the aspect to work with here is service. So where can you serve somebody? Here I'm talking about, you can help anybody within your family, your friends, or even if you just bring some kind of fresh air into a room, like being lighter. You can see it here when you go to places. People are super stressed out. They feel super dense. They don't look happy. So whatever you can go into a space and just bring the energy of something lighter, something more artistic, a bit of gentleness, something that feels lighter.
Yeah, I mean, also this being the third tone is about activation, I often think, with the electric energy, but also I think you're really right, Bella. Just taking a pulse on things over the last week or so, it's clear to us that people are not happy. There are many reasons for that. We've talked about those in some of our other videos, the updates that we're putting out each week ahead of the group clearing sessions, which of course we'll be doing again tomorrow on the equinox day here in the US, Sunday the 22nd. And I just want to preface one thing that's been giving me a lot of trouble recently is getting time zones and dates and days to align, because we are generally quite a long way behind at the other parts of the world. There are a few people even further behind us on the Pacific coast. But some of the dates that we're going to give might not be exactly the same for you because of the time zone difference. So just bear that in mind. We are operating here on Central Time, Texas, USA. So all of the times that we're given for the astrology are also going to be linked to this time zone. So just to bear that in mind.
Good. So still talking about this moon, it provides the power of connectivity. And here I like to invite you to connect with people, especially within your family and friends, from the heart, because I know that the chaos energy is really intensified and people are feeling it emotionally, physically, in many different ways, mentally. So whatever you can bring a little bit of these artistic and gentle and beautiful energy, which is represented by the deer, please do. If you can do even a little gesture for somebody with the tone of service, that would be really good.
Right, and I do have my witch holy bead work on today, which I generally like to wear when doing any work like this or being in ceremonial space. Also has sacred plants in it. And one of the things that the witch holy people of Mexico really work with is, of course, the grandfather medicine of peyote or peyotito. And that has that energy of the grandfather, which is very caring, also very, very supportive, which we also link very much to the energy of the oak tree sometimes. But perhaps this is a time where those of us who are more centered and grounded may be able to be in service more in our heart. We can actually offer that kind of grandfather energy through the energy of the deer medicine to those people around us, maybe like we've been seeing and witnessing and hearing from so many other people. For those people who aren't ready for what is coming, actually maybe have no idea what is coming. And so if you're watching this video, it tends to suggest that you're already much more plugged in to the dynamics and the energy. There are many, many different things going on, even outside of what we're going to share. Lots of, we can say, astronomical activity. All kinds of things seem to be flying around us at this point, right, Bella? We've been looking at some of that too, but those are in other videos out there on YouTube by some of our friends. So yeah, this medicine of the deer is considered to be the most pure by the witch holy people, the blue deer medicine. So perhaps that's what we're looking for here, is to be in that space ourselves.
Good. And so then moving on to the castles, we have been working with the White Castle. We're entering this the third wave spell of this castle, and it's the blue magnetic storm. And so it is a blue glyph. It is calling us to transformation, and probably the strongest point of transformation of the whole year, or maybe of the whole cycle.
Right, and I think I shared this in a previous video, Bella, but we are in this second castle of the year, and it has a very, very powerful sequence, which really energetically has spoken volumes to both of us, because this castle was kicked off by the Red Skywalker. We're currently in the White Well Bridger, which is very much about multidimensional consciousness, maybe even off-planet energies, time-traveling abilities. That's very much the realm of the Skywalker. Skywalker needs the White Well Bridges to bring heaven down to earth, 5D down to 3D. So having done that, what is it that we're bridging? Well, we need to bridge through the storm, which is what's incoming. And then the wave spell on the other side that completes this castle is the yellow Schumann. So to me, Bella, that really speaks of having to transcend the storm to become much more of our galactic human self, we could say.
Yes, and in order to do that, our limiting beliefs and anything that still needs to be washed away, it needs to happen now. The rain and the storm has come to do that. What else do you still need to let go of and be washed away, cleansed?
Right, exactly.
Right, so you can see here on the diagram, we're starting on day 79 or kin 79 up to number 91. So it's always 13 days to a wave spell, and this one runs from September 24th up to October 6th. You can see the glyph here again. And as I said, it is the year of the storm as well. So we have double the energy of this storm. And what are we talking about here? Is a perfect opportunity to do a purification process, to keep on working with your body. We've been insisting in detoxing for quite a while, but this is the moment also to work with the energy of your body, maybe with Kundalini work, with grounding, or any other technique that you can find that will help your body keep aligned and grounded, because the energy is the energy of chaos, meaning that it's very fast and it's accelerated the whole process of ascension and evolution and everything that we're doing at this point. So because everything is so fast and accelerated, it is going to catalyze everything that is to come, but also our nervous system needs to be ready to receive and and process all of that amount of energy. It is the final process of transformation, and you know, it's not going to happen only in this wave spell. We have up until November where there's going to be a lot of accelerated energy, but this particular wave spell could be key to take us to that point.
Right, and I know that you're going to get more into the details of this wasteful in a minute, but what I'm saying from this is that we've got not only the year of the blue storm, which means a year of change, which we shouldn't be afraid of. We should never be afraid of change because we're changing every moment by moment. So it's a normal facet of our existence. But we've now got the blue storm wave spell within the blue storm year. So what I would like to share is for those of you who've been doing these wave spells and following them quite tightly for a while, you'll know that every process we're in only lasts 13 days. So that's the good news. Whatever this storm process is, the catalyzation process, really the center of it is only going to last these 13 days. Now, anyone who's done deep healing work and been through transformational processes know that there's often after effects, releases, centering, grounding, healing, all of these things are necessary, but often to be honest, Bella, I've likened this once or twice to being like in a very, very long ayahuasca ceremony. We're at the point where we're going to release, and it's often the bit that's the most scary. It's the bit where the stuff comes up and it needs to come out, which is what that medicine is all about. It's about purifying our astral bodies. So the good news is, from what I'm seeing and what we've been experiencing recently, is that it's all going to be condensed down to these 13 days, and then we can look forward to stepping into our more cosmic human. Now, all of that will depend on how much inner work you've done up until this point. So we're going to be looking at a plan to help with that later.
Right. So it is about clearing not only the physical body, but the mental, emotional, and etheric bodies. All of them need to be cleared at this point. And for many of you, we know that many of you that follow us have been doing your work, and we get lots of emails and we get some feedback. And so for those of you that have been doing so much work, see this process as activating your alchemical powers. You've already reviewed quite a lot. So what is the final magic or alchemical process that you're about to do so that that's going to propel you to the next level?
Very much a phoenix moment if you're in that position and ready to do that. This is huge catalyzation, not just of our society, of Mother Earth, but also of us as individuals. And this is an evolutionary leap. It really has felt like that over the last few days. But how is the blue storm going to shape up, and what is it going to bring us, Bella?
Right. So the name is Kawak in Mayan, and it has many qualities, but above all, it's about change. It's the one that is going to change the world as we know it. We're going to start seeing the changes that are coming to our world and our environment. So we want to be able to flow with those changes, to have be more flexible when it comes to changing our beliefs and adapting to new ways of doing things. We also want to work with purification, which is one of the other main qualities, catalyzing all of this process, self-generation. So when we have the storm, we know that we can reinvent ourselves. We have the energy to be able to do that deep transformation and transmutation. So you can use that. If you've been doing a lot of work already, this is the point of that final transformation, of activating our light body, of becoming a thunder being. So we bring the storm rather than being hit by the storm, is the idea. So I did mention a little bit ago that that rain, we can symbolize it as getting rid of old beliefs, old perceptions, old ideas that they don't work for us anymore. So be ready for change and allow that change to happen. There may be some shadow to be worked still in this process, which could be fear of the unknown, because there could be many surprises coming. So many things that we can even prepare for, but we need to be ready to flow with those. There could be issues with addictions. One of the coping mechanisms of people could be drinking, drugs, or many other things. So what do you need to review so that that is already something that you need to get rid of because it's not helping us anymore? Being in denial, it's incredible to still hear people with cognitive dissonance still in denial of so many things. So if there is still any of that, be open to changing your beliefs and accepting other truths that you couldn't even imagine before. So a lot of flexibility required here. There could also be futility and despair, which comes with all of the chaos energy involved. Self-judgment, or even judgment of the others, but self-judgment is the point that you need to really transform and transmute at this point and replace it with self-love. Because all we're doing is making things worse by keeping on judging. You just keep on creating a vicious circle the more you judge yourself or judge the others. The other shadow is the disconnection from source or spirit. If you don't have a practice, or you feel that you're disconnected, or that you don't have a higher self or anything, that is part of the shadow, because we do have a lot of help from our higher self, from our guides, from source energy. You just need to create that link. So some of the keys for the transformation is to use good intentions. We're going to talk about the new moon that is coming as well. We can use good intentions to increase the vibration of energy. We can generate this change and transformation. So rather than wait for the storm to hit us, start generating the new world, the new ideas, the new process that you want to bring into your life. You know what needs to change. You just need to take action. To be able to reach that point of stillness in the eye of the storm. I think this is going to be super key, because we'll see lots of news outside, lots of media, misinformation, more chaos energy. So you need to be able to be still for you and for the people around you. We want to create these vortices of light and calmness in the middle of it all. Finally, bring freedom and growth into your life. So this is a moment of liberation. This is part of what it could bring. A storm is here to change the old paradigms and to allow us to be free. And we'll talk more about it with the astrology, because that is part of what it represents.
Right. Wow. Thank you, Bella. That's a great overview. And just leave the slide up for a second. I made a couple of notes because there's some really key things that I think you picked out there. And one of the things that we've been observing perhaps over the last couple of weeks is the emotional shutdown that seems to be happening for many people, which often seems to be coincided with, I would suggest, a fairly heavy intake of alcohol. Now, the two things are often linked. However, one of the side effects that we've seen as healers over the last couple of years is the emotional shutdown due to the offered medications of the last few years. So there are a lot of culminating pieces coming together here. And, particularly the cognitive dissonance, people's belief systems, and in order to be able to find freedom and sovereignty, the transformational process, we need to be able to let go of the things that no longer serve us. And that, for many people, will include their belief systems. And as we become non-dual beings, one of the things that we will find is that we will become less judgmental, hopefully not judgmental at all. And in doing so, we will be able to find compassion. So you can observe all of these things without having to make a judgment, comment, get in people's faces about it, but also see the process that has led them to that place of being, particularly if they're in heavy alcohol or drug use to suppress their pain. Or maybe they've also suffered some sort of emotional shutdown due to the medications and are completely unaware of what is going on for them. That's also something that I've observed, is that people are not really aware of how they're behaving. So all of these things, I think, are wider motifs for those of us who are more plugged in. And I assume by watching this, you probably are. And to hold all of that in your awareness when navigating your way through situation, maybe with colleagues, with friends, with family, who may be suffering from some of these experiences. That's not to say that everyone is going to be in that place who had medications over the last few years, but for sure there is a significant part of the population who might be in that space. So just to hold all of that in the place. And of course, when we are ready to make a leap into a different place, there has to be that kind of the unknown. Right.
I think it's important that this wave spell is happening within the moon of the deer, because people are going to be vulnerable, especially when they find out information about the offer medications and all of the damage and the need to purify the bodies, the blood and everything, and all the consequences after that. So there's going to be a lot more information about that, new revelations. So we want to be in a place of compassion and holding space for all of these people at the same time as being kind of in the eye of the storm. So it's going to require a lot of energy from us. Maybe it's even a good moment to eat well and have some good nutritious smoothies or food, something that will help your energy to keep on top of those things.
Right, and of course, there could be a fairly high level of anger from some quarters, maybe being spewed and directed in all kinds of directions. Of course, many people in positions of power are now going to have to face up to the actions that they've taken before, but also people downstream from that. So I think it's really important that even though some of us may have experienced projections in the recent past from some individuals, maybe even some close to us, telling us that we were wrong and that we should be doing things like they're doing, I don't think being in the places of I told you so is really going to help anybody right now. So just bear that in mind too. This is where we really get to show how multidimensional, how in our hearts, how connected here we are to the goddess and to the fifth dimension by taking the step back and not doing the obvious thing, which is to rub people's faces in it.
And as usual, we invite you to use the reflective questions to follow the wave spell day by day and have a purpose, define a purpose, identify what you want to achieve over this wave spell, understanding that it's a good wave spell to make changes. What area of your life is most affected and needs the most amount of changes? Is it your relationships? Is it your work? Is it the time that you have or whatever? Review all of those things because this can help us make those changes that need to happen right now.
And of course, with transformation, there's also the energy of creativity, which we'll be getting into in a little while. But let's talk a little bit about what we've been up to for a good part of this year, because it's very, very linked to all of the things that are going on. So what would you like to share about this, Bella?
So for those of you that don't know what the navigation guide to quantum consciousness is, it's a series of chapters that actually go deeper into each one of the tones from the wave spell and help you understand how to work with them and integrate the information and actually bridge to new earth. That's what we're understanding we're being able to do. And manifest. What is the world that you want to manifest for yourselves? And we just recorded chapter 10 recently, so we can see the manifestation process coming and showing us what you can achieve. And we're about to record number 11, which is all about liberation. And we understand that it's going to be really powerful. I hope you've been following them and that those things are already showing up in your life.
Right, and as we've said before, every single thing that me and Bella put out, whether it's our shows, whether it's our courses, every single one of this precisely linked to the Mayan wavespell of the moment and to astrological alignments. And so when we put this one together earlier this year, it was no coincidence when we started to look at how it was mapping out further down the road that the manifestation chapter, which was released in commensurate with the White Well Bridger, was really about manifesting the way to bridge the worlds from the old paradigm into the new earth. Some of us have been working very consciously on that for quite a long time. And so when we come to the blue magnetic storm, we're going to be releasing chapter 11, which is the chapter about liberation.
Yep.
So hopefully that gives you some idea of the energies that we're working with in conjunction with these other energies that are happening around us.
Good. So let's go into the astrology then.
Right. So there are a couple of major things to pick out really here. And here is, as always, is the slide for the overview of the astrology. And of course, there are many, many great astrologers out there picking up on all kinds of things. And what I'm also seeing is that everyone is trying to massage the information into a place to make it feel okay, which is fine. We need to do that because we need to stay on the upper notes. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have a look at what is coming to see how it fits with the energy of the storm. We've just given you the information that basically things could be a little bit turbulent for the next 2 weeks. But here we have Mercury, the messenger. And he is going to go, as we're going to look at in a minute, on a bit of a round the houses trip to get information from the other planets, and quite a few, in fact. So we're going to be having a look at that. We can see here the lineup starting literally with day one of this wave spell, September the 24th, here in Central Time, Texas. And moving through until, lo and behold, we have another one of our favorite things, which is a Cazimi, where the sun will be combusting Mercury. So we're having a bit of a look at that in a minute. But of course, the other big thing that is on the horizon is on October the 2nd, which is the new moon annular solar eclipse at 10 degrees and 3 minutes of Libra. And also, we've identified a black moon Lilith flashpoint. All right, so we just had this very, very powerful eclipse just a few days ago, and we are recording this on September the 21st, so just the day before the Libra equinox, which of course here in the Northern Hemisphere is our autumn equinox, and of course for our brothers and sisters down under, it will be the spring equinox, always holding things in balance. So we would love to hear from all of you out there on your experiences of the eclipse from a few days ago. Super powerful for us. We'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. and of course the incoming equinox, which is always about the balance of light and dark. And from this point forwards in the northern hemisphere, the dark is in the ascendancy. That's not to say it's bad, but it means we're going deeper into the void, the place of the womb and creation. So it's actually something to kind of be excited about. But it also means in the northern hemisphere that we have less light coming to us for the next 6 months or so. So what would you like to share, Bella, about the powerful eclipse?
Well, that we know that eclipses come in pairs, and what they do is they open these windows for us to accomplish things if we're paying attention. Otherwise, we'll just see lots of changes happening that are permanent, and we don't know why. So we want to be paying attention to what happened with that full moon in Pisces eclipse, which was a point of culmination, but it actually opened a window for us to get to the next eclipse, which you're going to mention a little bit about. So this September equinox, what it's doing is balancing things out. The year of the storm is also a number 6, which is also about balance. So let's see how we're going to balance the light and the dark moving forward, not only in our lives, but how we're going to create new earth in a balanced way.
Right, and of course, you know, as beings having a spiritual experience in a 3D body, it's very, very important that we understand that we're not chasing the light. There is a tendency for spiritual bypassing, and really, the more light that we are able to hold, the more we need to be able to hold the equal and opposite amount of dark. That's not to say that we're holding good and bad. That's often a misconception, but it's very interesting to see how that dynamic plays out when you are a light worker and when you're doing healing work, and how you have to be able to manage both your own inner darkness, but also maybe the level of darkness that comes at you during these times. Again, this is where we really get to show our credentials as spiritual people on the path, maybe as healers, as people who do clearing work, maybe people holding space. Because like we've said earlier in the show already, there are many people who really have no clue about any of that, and they're going to need a lot of our help.
I think just to move from these points, so we go into the astrology of the wavespell, it's about rebalancing the scales. So where do you need to rebalance the scales? In which area of your life? Is it relationships? Is it on your daily habits of how are you living your life? Is it on how you deal with other people or with changes? Everything we've been talking about, how can you level the scales at this point so that you can move forward?
Right, and of course, we already covered all of the astrology here in our last show, so lots of juicy stuff there. I'm sure many of you have already looked at. But yeah, let's have a look into the energy now of the incoming astrology.
Okay. Here we go.
Right, so I entitled this Mercury Goes Visiting His Neighbors, we can say, wider family members to take a pulse before combusting with the sun. So this really is the first day of the wave spell, and it kicks off with a series of visits that Mercury makes to see other planets. And so he kicks off his around the houses kind of a trip with a trine. So Mercury is at 27 degrees to start this wave spell and 2 minutes in Virgo, and it's going to be trining Uranus in Taurus. So perhaps, Bella, you can just show that there on the chart.
To show what?
Up here. There we go. So we've got Mercury and Uranus over here in Taurus. Now, this is actually a really, really interesting way to start this particular wave spell with the astrology, because this is really about opening your mind to new possibilities. And there is also the possibility of exciting new encounters with stimulating people, maybe eccentric people, maybe interesting people, who could stimulate and electrify the possibility of different cognitive experiences. Maybe people are going to come into your life who are going to open you up to different ways of seeing things. And I think this is a really important part of the transformational process. Are you able to receive new information from other people, maybe that you haven't considered before? There is also the very strong possibility of flashes of insight, lucidity, lucid dreams, maybe an increase in psychic abilities. And how do we work with all of these really for communication? How are we going to bring in these insights into a better way of communicating? And I think it's really interesting, Bella, that these are both in earth signs, in Taurus and Virgo.
So what I see here is that with the Sun and Mercury, there is going to be a lot of revelations and new information that then create all of these big changes. And maybe they have to do with Pluto there, with the government, with the people in power, with the banking systems, with many things of the old paradigm and old system that need to go and need to be able to be changed. We need to create something different. So I think that information that is coming there with Mercury is going to make the changes and accelerate them. So the storm could come through information. That's one thing.
Right, and actually here, just jumping ahead slightly to the following day, Virgo will be trining Pluto, which I'll come to in a second. But the following day, day 2, which is, of course, day of polarity in the storm. So I would suggest perhaps one of the more challenging days of all in the next wave spell. We've got actually quite a challenging opposition between Mercury, again, now moved on a degree to 28 degrees and 33 minutes of Virgo. We can see the slight progressions here as Mercury's kind of ticking these boxes,
right,
and saying, okay, I had a quick chat with Uranus, that all looks good, open to possibilities, but oh dear, what's this? I now have to confront more difficult communication issues, particularly in relationships. And this is going to be compounded by, of course, Neptune being in Pisces, where there's a lot of illusion and delusion around us at the moment, lots of confusing ideas. And it could be possible that we're seeing the truth in front of us, but due to the amount of misinformation that's also coming out, we won't be able to see the wood for the trees, as we would say, and we won't be able to discern truth, whatever that might be for us, as opposed to complete garbage or made up stuff. So I think that what we're really being encouraged to think about here is not to go diving off the deep end and my way is the highway and my truth is the only truth, and perhaps having big bust ups or arguments with people around us, particularly partners, due to this inability to maybe take a breath and then think about communicating from the heart rather than perhaps from a more reactionary place. It's not necessarily a good time to be making good decisions on this day. I would definitely, to be honest, leave it a few days, maybe even till the next wave spell, to make any big decisions. And perhaps also it's a time to not perhaps take some of our psychic intuition so to the truth on this day. This will change throughout these next few days, but this particular day, perhaps we want to be doing something that is a little dreamy, maybe creative writing, it's Mercury, maybe poetry, or maybe if we just want to kick back, we might want to get into a good sci-fi or fantasy film, something that's going to stimulate our thinking. I would always recommend Lord of the Rings, but I recommend that for pretty much any situation. So that's just my kind of the kind of, how to say, spiritual end time energy that I think is actually quite positive. But what do you think, Bella? Have you got any suggestions?
Well, no, what I'm seeing here is chaos, the asteroid chaos, very close to the moon. Ooh. So what that tells me is that the chaos energy is going to be out there in the collective, and we need to be able to work with it. It's like working with the storm. What can you do? Can you find that place of calmness and stillness and breath work and connection to your heart and grounding and all of the tools that we've been talking about?
So interestingly, this opposition that kicks off day 2, September the 25th, is relatively early in the day. But then Mercury decides that that's not enough for one day. He wants to have a chat with somebody else. So he then moves on to much later in the day. And of course, again, this is here in our time, Texas. So it's probably going to be the following day for many of you. But he then wants to have a nice conversation with good old Pluto, who's now at 2942 of Capricorn. So this is actually a positive aspect, we can say. There's a lot of brain power at work here. We can also say that this might be a time when telepathy comes up or remote viewing. So we've kind of got this difficulty with the opposition with Neptune, but also Pluto wanting us to look at things, perhaps try and disseminate information, maybe experiencing lots of 4D astral projections into our mind space, but also maybe feeling some truth in some of them and not in others. So that's where I think we're really being encouraged to get into our bodies. Maybe that's why some of these experiences are happening in the earth signs, better, is to get us back into our bodies, hold our psychic energies, particularly those in the astral realm, where we can, if we're not careful, be prone to manipulation, particularly by some of the kind of media frequencies that are coming at us from all directions at this time. Also, interestingly, being quite Plutonian myself, one of the things that occurred to me was that this tends to perhaps give us a better understanding of the underworld. And maybe if some of us have experienced the underworld strongly in our life, there could be an opportunity here to to use that intuition, that psychic ability, maybe even telepathy, and perhaps be a little bit of an investigator or detective and uncover secrets. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say to go out and put those on YouTube, but if you're trying to get to the truth yourself about something that's going on, you might be able to use this energy of Mercury trining Pluto to come to some truths in this moment that are actually going to work for you.
Good.
So moving on from that, Mercury then enters Libra on September the 26th, which is really starting to build the energy for the incoming new moon eclipse, which is a few days after that. But this is something that I found really interesting when I was looking at the transits that Mercury is in. He's going to be then moving on to 6 degrees of Libra by September the 29th, which is day 6 in this wavespell here where we are. And so by conjuncting the south node, of course, is also going to be opposing the north node. So some of the notes I made for this, Bella, are sort of with Mercury conjuncting the south node, I got this kind of idea of a ruthless objectivity regarding all aspects of our existence.
Mercury conjuncting
the south node.
All right.
So this is perhaps another way of saying, like, who do we think we actually are? How attached to our identity are we? Am I really Davyd, or am I a conglomerate of many other bits of cosmic DNA that make up this appearance that is sat here giving this show with Bella here? And the same would apply for Bella, and the same would apply for all of us. Are we able to look inside and see the various components that we are made up of? And if we are able to do that, we might come to some very, very interesting realizations about the nature of ourselves, the nature of time, the nature of reality.
I think that also connects to letting go of all ideas of of the way we thought things were or worked, or what we grew up believing, all of those limiting beliefs and all of those ideas that were given to us on how you need a career and you need to live in this way, or to make money you have to do this or that, or all of those ideas that will not work in the new world. Maybe it's time to review them all and let go of them because they're in the past, for the collective as well.
Right, and with this energy of the conjunction with the south node and opposing the north node, which I'll come to in a second, I really feel that there is the need to meditate. I definitely meditate pretty much every day, often for extended periods, to try and make sense of what is going on for me, for us, for the world around us. But also, I think this is a time for radical authenticity, which again comes back to this sort of stripping ourselves apart on the inner level and exploring who we really are, and perhaps exploring our cosmic selves. Maybe many of you have been experiencing side effects of what we've talked about in other videos, the time tsunami that we've linked to Atlantis on another timeline. We are now at a point where all of the timelines are converging into a 0 point. Now, that in itself is worthy of a whole nother video, which hopefully we will get to do at some point. But if you've been experiencing memories coming out of nowhere of seemingly past lives, or things that suddenly bubble up, but you're not really sure where did they come from, this actually could be the energy of Mercury opposing the North Node, remembering our past lives, either consciously or unconsciously, which again, I think really links into some of the other energies we've been talking about here with Mercury trining Pluto and also Uranus. Very, very sort of psychic energies at work here, Bella.
Okay.
So then the final thing before we get to the eclipse is that Mercury, having done all of this kind of probing, and I would say really he wants to deliver a message to us of like, hey, do you really know who you are? Do you have any idea what is going on for you right now? How much have you looked inside to see how much of your authentic self you're really in touch with? Are you being radically authentic and actually showing up in your most complete way? So as he rounds out his journey, he decides to combust with the sun in a Mercury Kazemi on September the 30th at 8 degrees and 11 minutes of Libra. So I think that that's really it for the Mercury journey. I think really and truly the energy that we're looking here with Mercury as it conjuncts with the sun is balance, harmony, and communication, but charming, good communication. How are we taking the information that's coming now in the energy of Libra, balancing it out within ourselves, and also how are we expressing that through the energy of Libra?
And maybe even bring your new ideas into the second eclipse. So what new ideas do you want to put in this window? We have those 2 eclipses. What else can you bring that is going to help you and maybe illuminate much more what you want to do or how you want to create a new reality for yourself?
So yeah, often Mercury is about how we communicate with others, but really I think in many ways, Bella, what Mercury is wanting us to do is to communicate with us, with the universe around us, and offering us all of this advice, really. It's like how much have you been paying attention to things? How much are you able to discern other communications coming to you? Can you sort the wheat from the chaff and come to a place of authenticness within yourself? So I think this is pretty exciting. And actually, I think it gives us a very good navigational marker for the cosmic storm.
Yeah, I think this is the main message with this show. Things are going to be really shaky, but they also have a lot of possibilities of things for us to do. You can bring new ideas. You can put new ideas through these eclipses. You can bring new changes. You can reinvent yourself. You can bring the storm and purify and cleanse everything. So there are many options on how to work with this storm energy.
Right, and I like what you just said there. It's given me a thought that with all of this information that Mercury is helping to give us about ourselves, maybe we're being offered the possibility to completely transform into a newer, higher version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And what is that? Maybe there are other parallel timelines or past lives where we have much more beneficial karma and merit that we can pull forth into this moment and express, because it's still us, even though it might seem like it's from the past or another reality, it's still actually an aspect of us that is living out in those places. And we can actually be whoever or whatever we want to be.
So that is part of what actually needs to happen. You want to reinvent yourself. You want to be the new human you can be, but first cleanse everything that doesn't work so we can go into the next wave spell, which is the one about the new human, about how to become cosmic humans after doing this work with Storm.
Right. And for any of you who've done the Stellar Nations pathway, the cosmic human, of course, is the conglomeration of all of our cosmic DNA fully integrated so that we've got all of these aspects of ourselves, which is still all of us, but beautifully contained in these 3D bodies, which we are carrying around we can say our spirit in this incarnation. So, yes, onto the new moon eclipse, which is at 10 degrees and 3 minutes of Libra. Now, we'll have a look at the chart in a minute because there's a lot to talk about. But I just wanted to share this little sequence of events here, Bella, because I think that we're looking at something quite interesting. Now, we've put a link here. We'll try and pull it up in a second. Hopefully it'll work to show you the flight path of the eclipse. It's really only affecting, we can say, mostly Argentina and some of South America. But of course, the energy will be felt across the planet. So the eclipse window opens at 11:50 a.m. This is the sort of the beginning of it. This is here in Texas time. The time of the maximum eclipse portal opens at 1:45 and lasts for 7 minutes and 22 seconds, which in the middle of that, of course, we actually have when the sun conjuncts the moon. And then, of course, that maximum eclipse portal will finish at 13:52. But here's the interesting thing. If we understand that portals kind of windows, then we also have another interesting one coming up just a couple of hours afterwards, which is a Black Moon Lilith flashpoint. This is when the mean Black Moon Lilith and the true Black Moon Lilith conjoin at the same degree in the same minute. They often only do that for a matter of minutes. It can happen to normally twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month. It does require a lot of tracking and fiddling around with Astro software. But what we have shared before is that these flashpoints are also portals through which we can send and receive information. So we've got two of those very, very close to each other. If you've been working with these, hopefully you'll get what we're talking about and you might be able to actually work with those two portals to your advantage. And then the eclipse window shuts fully at around 4:45 local time here in Texas. And that is the extent of the window. So that is also linking back to the eclipse we've just had, but also loops back to other eclipses, which perhaps a little bit too much detail here right now, but it's a new moon eclipse. So when it's a new moon, we want to be putting our intention strongly into that portal space.
Indeed.
Alrighty, so do you want to see if the link works to the flight path a second? Yeah, here we go. Hopefully this is running on the video. So we can see, I think it also clips Hawaii briefly, and then mostly comes across also a bit of Brazil. So it's interesting to see that some of these countries are very much in the news at the moment with lots of tumultuous possible political changes on the way. So who knows whether this eclipse is probably going to herald a lot of that coming to fruition, but my gut feeling tells me it probably is, mainly because those places are ready to pop anyway. So any thoughts on that, Bella?
Well, I think it is a very powerful eclipse again, and one where we can create and see the change into the new world. I think this one is really going to show us where we're going as humanity, as a planet, and where do you stand with those changes? We've seen so much bifurcation, and so where are you going to stand when it comes to creating a new planet or a new world?
And what's really exciting is the next full moon after this is going to be a full moon in Aries, which of course is very much about self. So I think that we're being encouraged to work with the energy of Mercury, work with this new moon, work with the eclipse, and really call in our new self. So when that full moon comes to fruition later in October, during Scorpio season, or just as we're coming into Scorpio season, we can really start to feel the effects of our new selves and how is that looking for us. But we have a bit of work to do before we get there. So that's what this this eclipse is going to help us.
There is so much going on that I didn't know what to highlight, so I highlighted everything.
You highlighted everything. Good. Is there anywhere that you would like to start on this one, Bella? Or I know that you were looking at a couple of things like particularly chaos. Also, we've got this big stellium happening up here in Libra with the sun. That you can see the two Liliths, right on top of each other there. We've also got the moon, and we've also got Mercury having just gone through that Cazimi. So it's very much right there in the Libra energy, and I think is giving us that sense of balance, harmony, and justice that I think probably most of us who are heading towards a new Earth trajectory would like to see as a widespread phenomenon in our world, perhaps.
There is a lot here, but I think one of the main things that I feel the charts more than study them really, is that they are supporting what is to come, like the possibility of creating a new way of doing agriculture, for example, with Uranus there in Taurus, a new way of doing banking when Pluto moves into Aquarius, Venus in Scorpio, sorry, also a new way of relationships and money and all of that. So I feel like all of these astrologies that's supporting us in this process so that we actually move forward, even though it's difficult because it's a storm and we're having to let go of many ideas of being used to doing things in a certain way. So I feel that it is actually supporting us in that process.
I think generally the astrology and the energy is always supporting us, but sometimes it's maybe supporting us in a way that challenges us and forces us to change and to adapt and to transform. And there are many things that this chart is also showing me that need to change. And again, my eye is being caught by Saturn opposing the sacred flame of Vesta and Orcus, which to me speaks very much of sacred contracts with the divine feminine, maybe that have been broken in those past timelines, and maybe Mercury wants to bring to our attention. It's like, how are we showing up in balance between our inner masculine and feminine? How are we showing up in the world with the balance of masculine and feminine within us, and how we show that to the world? But also, I think this is probably true for the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Also, a very emotional new moon with that Mars in Cancer, Venus in Scorpio, Saturn in Pisces. So new ways of doing things that will make people very emotional because maybe there will be loss of to a certain level. And unless we come to a point of balance, then I think it's going to affect a lot of people emotionally mostly.
Right, and actually, as I'm just looking at this, we see that those conjunction of Vesta and Orcus are actually both sextiling different ways, Mars and Venus. Venus, of course, as Bella just said, at 11 degrees of Scorpio, and Mars down here at 15 degrees of Cancer. So I think that's a very interesting aspect too, because sextiles are beneficial, and perhaps we're being asked to balance again the Venus and Mars energy coming into that sacred flame, the return of the goddess. Many of us have been feeling that very, very strongly for a while now, but the eclipse really opened the portal for the divine feminine to come back very, very strongly onto the planet. So again, would love to hear anyone's thoughts or comments about that.
I'd like to mention that unless that feminine and masculine come to a point of balance, which is what they are suggesting, the planets are evolving, the astrology is evolving as well. Unless we are able to work with transcending that polarity, I see a lot of separations and breakages and things like that if people are not being able to transcend that polarity.
Yeah, and thankfully, with that in mind, we see that Mars and Venus, of course, are trining each other there. But yeah, you're right, Bella. Many astrologers have already talked a lot about the potentiality of relationship issues, the ending of relationships, perhaps irreconcilable differences coming about because of the bifurcation, maybe belief systems that just cannot be reconciled, things that maybe have been bubbling along under the surface, probably even over the last 4 years, particularly. A lot of people have already gone through separation processes. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Sometimes some things need to come to an end so that we also get freedom, sovereignty. Maybe we've been in a codependent relationship, or maybe someone's been depending on us in a way that doesn't really work for us anymore. And yeah, as I think the astrologer Pam Gregory said, let's do something that works for both of us. I like that idea. Let's try to find solutions if we are having some testy moments, but genuinely there's still the connection and you want things to move forward and both parties are agreeing on that. Maybe you just need to change some of the dynamics, the language, maybe take a deep breath, go meditate under a nice tree for a bit, come back and have a conversation in a different direction. So it seems, Bella, right, that this is very much about bringing things back into balance, I think, in relationships, but also with the masculine and feminine.
And with any karmic situations that are still outstanding, then probably to a soulmate level or anything that still needs to be let go of. Maybe you were together with a partner because there was a soul contract, and now it's ready to be let go of with peace and balance and everybody being in a good space. Who knows? That could be part of many of those that could happen.
Right, I like that idea. And again, the astrology here with Orcus and Vestas supports that idea. So, you know, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we sign up to many contracts, many of which are coming to an end, which is why Saturn's asking us to look at the structure of those contracts. Maybe our contract with the matrix is also coming into some sort of scrutiny here through our belief systems. And of course, Saturn is in Pisces, so he's having some trouble also getting his structure because he's in unfamiliar territory, which I guess is probably true for many of us right now. But hey, something's just jumped out at me here, Bella, which is that Uranus in Taurus is opposing Hidalgo, one of our favorite asteroids in Scorpio. So the Hidalgo, the warrior priest, we literally just had the cry of Dolores here in Mexico just a few days ago, which was the spark that heralded the War of Independence of Mexico, which was led by the priest Hidalgo, but being opposed by Uranus in Taurus. So I'm thinking that could mean sudden, unexpected rebellions, maybe uprisings or shows of force, maybe a new type of independence. What do you think?
I would say there will be a lot of uprisings. I'm not going to say too much about that, but I do see a lot of like many countries and many places having protests and many things going on because the old paradigm is come to the end and people are not ready to continue living this way, where it's a world of slavery, where it's too hard to get out of a system and thrive. So new systems need to be put in place, and they have to come from us, from everybody, putting the ideas forward and creating new solutions.
Right, and also interestingly, because of the aspects going on here, Hidalgo is also in a nice trine with Neptune in Pisces. So maybe this is also where we see through the collective BS that we've been served up for a long time, which might prompt some people to rise up.
The illusions.
The illusions, and particularly with some of the cognitive dissonance, particularly with the energies of the medical practices of the last few years. I suspect that many people might have some things that they want to vent about a little bit. So I think this is really where that balance and harmony aspect of Libra is going to be needed. But also just seeing that there's an exact sextile here going on, which again is another beneficial transit between Jupiter and Chiron. So this is an expansion of healing that's about to happen here for ourselves in Aries.
Well, and it could be that the healing comes with expanding your consciousness and accepting new ideas because it's in Gemini. So are you ready to accept different beliefs and different ideas that have you probably thought they weren't suitable for your lifestyle, but maybe they are the solution moving forward?
Right, I like that. That's a good take on it. So, we can see that there are lots of challenges. We've talked about those, but actually, the more that we look at this, the more that we see there are lots of solutions being provided, also lots of healing, lots of energy of change. And I'm a big fan of the energy of Fidalgo. Studied it in detail, resonate with his mission, because he was also flying the flag of the goddess. Our Lady of Guadalupe was his talismanic banner that he carried into battle with a collection of all kinds of people, including fellow white people, but also many indigenous people. And he was a man of the cloth. So he was also really rebelling against the major aspect of the matrix too, and wanting to call the goddess in. So many, many interesting things about this man, very interesting character. And perhaps now we're also seeing the culmination of some of these historical characters' works that maybe didn't quite come to fruition on the original timelines that they seemingly happened on. So I hope that for all the heartfelt revolutionaries out there who really wanted to bring balance back into the world on all of the previous timelines and how dimensions, however we look at that, may they all come to fruition now, because now is definitely the time.
And one of the ways of breaking away from this system is the freedom of finances, where we become sovereign, where we become our own banks, where we go quantum when it comes to finances. And blockchain and cryptocurrencies will be moving forward, new ways of banking, new exchanges out there. So many new things are in the horizon. Are you tapping into those? Are you preparing for those changes? And they are coming really, really soon. Even with this eclipse, I see many changes already there.
Right, and I mean, obviously these are long-term transits too, but with Pluto at 29 of Capricorn, Neptune at 28 of Pisces, and Uranus at 26 of Taurus, they are all in harmonious aspects, and these are some of the outer, well, they are the outer planets, which to me speak of the metaphysical and maybe stuff that's a bit more beyond the earthly realms. And so I think when I see that, Bella, it makes me think that we are about to go for a very, very profound metaphysical change.
That too.
But also with some of the energies still very rooted in the earth signs, as we've already talked about. It's also about those metaphysical changes being anchored here into the 3D, which is really what this whole gig is about, becoming Jedis, we can say.
Yeah, new humans. There are many things on this chart, and we always felt that when the storm hit us, which is now, we were going to be thrown everything at the same time. So I see the changes in every area of our lives: relationships, money, connection to governments, to other systems. Everything is going to be here shaken and restructured.
All of which is absolutely necessary, and I think maybe
it's what we need.
Right, it's what we all signed up for. We came here to do this job, each and every one of us participating in this great game, this experiment, this simulation, however we all want to view it right now. We all came to be a part of it. We all came to assist in the transformation. So every being participating is playing their role, even if sometimes it's a little hard to discern how. They absolutely are. So I think that the end note, looking at this astrology, Bella, is that it's, I think, hold fast. To use a seafaring term, hold fast when the storm breaks over the bow of the ship, and understand that a storm always passes. And once you're through the other side, maybe, just maybe, there might be a new piece of land on the horizon.
Good.
Yeah. So, well, what to say about this, Bella? This is something that we've been doing now just for 1 week, but we're about to jump into tomorrow and do our second round of 10.
Right. So the group Astral clearings and teachings is one of the offerings that we decided to do for ourselves and for the people that want to join us over the next 9 weeks now.
9 weeks, yeah.
Or 9 Sundays, because there is so much chaos energy out there, and the astral is where we see all of the emotional disturbances and the energetic parasitic entities and everything feeding in the middle of the chaos. So what we see here is that we can do some clearing with whoever comes into the calls with us as a way of helping navigate this storm all the way up to November.
Yeah, well said, Bella. And we were guided to do this by our spirit guides, the guides that we work with for healing, particularly the plant spirits, but also the angelic realms and the elemental realms too. And the basic premise is very simple. We take about half an hour to 40 minutes to do a very strong clearing of everybody's energy fields who has signed up for this. If you can't make the call, it doesn't actually matter. The call is a visual way to connect with people, but everyone who is participating, who's agreed to participate, will receive the clearing and the healing anyway, because it's quantum. That's how we've been doing our clearings for a number of years. And in fact, many people signing up to this are actually brothers and sisters from down in Australia and New Zealand who, due to time differences, can't join us on the call, but are definitely feeling the effects. And After we do the clearing part of it, we then go into a teaching for about, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes, sometimes a bit longer, looking at some of the things that we've just cleared to bring some kind of astral awareness so that we can start to understand maybe what's getting us out of shape, giving us anxiety, getting us all hot and bothered. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get rid of all of the triggers underneath that, but when we've got triggers on top of those that are prodding and poking and sending frequencies and projections from the lower astrals into our field, it's not helping the situation, and really probably is going to create some of that confusion that we looked at when Mercury opposes Neptune.
So because we know that there is a storm and chaos energy out there, if you on top of that are full of entities and all of these astral
beings, astral sliming, medication toxicity, there's a whole raft.
If on top of that people are super emotional and come to you, everybody's going to blow up and react even worse. So part of the solution is to keep your field clear, and if you have also practice of meditation or something that can help you process grounding, is super important, and the plants can help us. We give you the plants to work with. We tell you which plants to work with.
Yeah, we cover the plants that we work with to do this for ourselves, and everything that we do in these clearings we pretty much do every day ourselves. And people say, oh, do I really need to clear that often? It's like, well, sometimes we clear 2 or 3 times a day just because we want to stay in good shape and make sure that we don't get triggered by stuff. And here we have our plant of this wave spell to assist us in that process.
So the main plant that we're going to recommend for this wave spell is horsetail, because it's a really good plant to get rid of, to purify, so get rid of heavy metals and help us process the amount of energy that is coming. So we're receiving a huge amount of solar flares, but we're also processing the energy of chaos, so you can use it for self-regeneration. That's what we can do. So horsetail is a perfect plant to help us do this.
Right, it's a plant that I'm working with specifically for the tendon damage that I had from my accident, so it's helping me with that. But really, the reason that me and Bella like this plant a lot is because it's high in silica and is able to receive more light, which is really beneficial when you want to receive those nice, juicy light codes that we're receiving from the photon belt and from, of course, the sun. So we did just put out a recent video looking at some of the symptoms that people have been expressing and trying to discern, is this really a solar flare? Is it sliming? Is it something else? You know, we're always in investigation mode ourselves and trying to refine our understanding of what's happening to us. So this plant is really, really good at doing that. But I would say probably one of the most beneficial things it has to most people right now is to help us get into the place where we can receive more light by getting rid of some of the density and the toxicity, which unfortunately has come in the form of graphene oxide over the last few years. Now, that's a whole nother rabbit hole story in itself, and not for this call, but I know that many of you out there who watch this understand what graphene is, what kind of medications it's been in, the debilitating effect too much of it in our systems can have, particularly in our immune system. And having been through a graphene detoxification process with horsetail, I can say that it absolutely does do that, because you see it being passed through your urine. So it's a really, really effective plant to do that.
This is really good for your hair and skin and nails. Yes, it really helps. You know, when in crops, they use it to get the plants to be stronger and the leaves to be thicker. So they create an armor in our body. They make us stronger. So really highly recommend horsetail. You can get it in capsules, you can get it in tea bags. So many ways to work with horsetail, or tinctures. But more than anything, we want to recommend plants that will help you kind of deal with the storm at this moment. So anything to keep you calm, chamomile teas, lavender as an essence, essential oil. What else can you recommend?
Well, we put tobacco there, and we have mentioned tobacco before, but we always put it with a slight disclaimer. This is not an encouragement to go out and buy a box of 20-something or others to smoke. No, you might have some sacred tobacco that you are well trained in. So this is perhaps more for some of our shamanic,
more shamanic groups,
who are used to working with tobacco. That's something that we're used to working with. Maybe
for grounding.
For grounding, even for clearing. Maybe some of you work with the hape rape medicine, or maybe some of you know how to drink tobacco tea, which is very, very good at cleansing out.
We don't recommend it for everybody.
I don't recommend it really for too many people. But if you know about tobacco, this is definitely a plan. You're probably already working with it if you know the plan.
Only if you know it already,
But we also just included a couple of others here, which we could probably include in every single wave spell. A plant, wisdom, which is our dearly beloved Lady Wormwood, and of course the master of time and DNA and genetics, which is dandelion. So What are the reasons for that, Bella, just to recap?
So a great combo, horsetail, wormwood, and dandelion to detox your body, to detox your blood, to detox your liver, energetic parasites, so many things. So those three are key, especially if you want to come and join us in the astral clearings, because they are super powerful for that.
Right, and just to round out on that, these free plants along with nettle are the four that we generally recommend because they're fairly easy to get hold of. Horsetail is also not that difficult, fairly easy to forage if you know where to look for it, but wormwood is very good at parasites, dandelion is very good at heavy metals and toxicity in that regard, horsetail great for graphene, and nettle is an adaptogen, great for boundaries, all of which are probably going to be pretty useful right now. So we share more about all of how to work with these on the astral clearings, of course, but generally I would suggest, having seen the effects of some of the clearings that are done on a one-to-one basis with clients recently, Bella, it was actually when they started ingesting some of these plants 2 or 3 days after the clearing that they felt the full effects. So you don't need to take very much. We're now at a quantum level with plant intelligence, as many of you will know from following us for a while, where we just really have to invite the spirits in and ask them to do the work that is necessary.
Good. A final reminder that the Mayan Time and Magic course, for those of you more interested in the wave spells and the soul kin and everything we do with the castles, is all explained in the course. So, and if you want a session for activation of your galactic signature, you can also contact me for those.
You know, I'm probably biased, but I would say this is one of the most profound, life-changing courses that I've ever participated in, not just helping Bella to film it, but actually working with the material myself has really helped me in my healing process with my feet, but also has really engendered a profound sense of time and the dissolution of time, and how we've been kind of led down the garden path with the Gregorian calendars. So if you are really wanting to step up into your multidimensional self, the understanding of the malleability of time and how we can work with it rather than be subjected to somebody else's working of it, then I would say that this course is really a vital component in that journey.
Right. So what else do we have to share?
I think that's really it for today, Bella. I think we've already shared quite a bit. Please do hit like and subscribe. We always say that it does make a difference to getting, as much as anything, guys and girls, it gets the information out to more people. We're trying to bust the algorithms on YouTube and maybe coming from a slightly different place from us. So we're having to work with those. But most of all, if you like what we do, please do share it with people that can benefit. As always, we always love to hear from all of you, whether in the comments or in emails. And of course, if you are needing any extra assistance, we are both offering one-to-one sessions. Bella's doing the glyph activation process still, right? And I'm offering a more one-to-one session for, we can say, some limited energetic healing or maybe some timeline soul retrieval work. There's a limit to what we can do online in compared to the sessions we do in the astral clearings, but for sure, many people coming to me right now with similar issues, which we covered in our astral endgame video recently, and we'll be looking at every week in the astral clearings.
Good. So change is here, the storm is here, let's flow with it, because the more you resist, things will persist and just create more and more chaos. So we need to be able to flow with changes. And maybe what kind of changes are you ready to make? Make them yourself so that it's not as difficult if you're not ready for it.
Right, so that really is it, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again. We're almost up to episode number 20, which means we would have done a complete round of the quantum compass, a whole Zolkin. So again, the timing of that is super interesting because everything is coming to a place of an end, which also means a beginning. So keep it real, keep it centered, keep it grounded, and keep it new earth, I would suggest. And together we're strong, and together we are doing this, everybody. And where one goes, we all go. You know, these are all motifs that we've been using, but they're all very true, and they're all what's going to help us go through this process together, helping each other as brothers and sisters on this journey.
Have a wonderful eclipse and new moon. Put all of your higher intentions there for the highest good of all, because we're in service to all, not in service to self. And the more of us that do that, the more we're going to put that in the collective, and the change will be happening thanks to everybody.
Right, and most of all, keep it up. In Lakesh.